In a world where it's all too easy to let your busy life in the city get in the way of finding love, sometimes you just need to go back to basics. And that's exactly what our story is all about today. Our story begins with a rancher who has spent the majority of his life alone out on his ranch in Montana. This man hasn't had much company over the years, but he was never lonely. That's because he had his loyal dog, Trigger, to keep him company and help him through thick and thin. He'd had Trigger since the dog was just a puppy, and they've been inseparable ever since. The old man wasn't always this solitary, though. He used to have a loving wife named Mary. They were married for 36 years before she passed away from cancer. They never had any children, so when Mary died, the rancher felt like a piece of his soul left with her. He kept himself busy on the ranch, but he couldn't shake this feeling that something was missing. All of a sudden, the silence in the house was deafening. Even Trigger seemed to sense his owner's sadness, and would often come and sit by his side just to comfort him. It took the old man nearly 2 years to get over his wife's death, but he eventually realized that if he wanted to be happy again, he had to find someone new to love. The problem was, he was getting on in years and didn't think anyone would want to be with him. He wasn't particularly good-looking and didn't have much money to his name. So he decided to take a leap of faith and put an ad in the newspaper. He wanted to find a mail-order bride and hoped that soon he wouldn't be spending his evenings alone anymore. After placing the ad, the rancher waited patiently for his future wife to come along. He had no idea what to expect, but was excited at the thought of starting a new chapter in his life. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, there was a woman who saw the rancher's ad and thought maybe he could be the one she'd been waiting for all her life. Her name was Rose, and she lived in a bustling city. She was tired of the noise and crowds and dreamed of living on a ranch in the peaceful countryside. Rose had never been married, but she longed for a family and a partner to share her life with. When she read the rancher's ad, she felt a connection with him and knew she had to meet him. Without wasting any time, Rose got in her car and drove 4 hours until she reached the rancher's home. When she knocked on the door, the old man was taken aback by how beautiful she was. Here was this stunning woman who had seen his ad and wanted to be with him. He invited her in, and they started talking. The more they chatted, the more the rancher liked Rose. He realized that she was kind, intelligent, and funny. And most importantly, she was looking for the same things he was. They talked for hours that day, and by the time the sun went down, the rancher knew he had found someone special. He asked Rose if she would like to stay the night, and she agreed. As they sat by the fire, the rancher felt a sense of warmth and happiness he hadn't felt in years. He knew he had made the right decision by placing that ad in the newspaper. Over the next few weeks, the rancher and Rose grew closer. He showed her around his ranch and introduced her to his dog, Trigger. Rose loved living on the ranch. She enjoyed the peace and quiet and the chance to start a new life. She and the rancher spent their days working on the ranch and their evenings talking by the fire. He told her stories about his life on the ranch, and she shared her dreams for the future. One evening, while they were sitting by the fire, The rancher took Rose's hand and asked her to marry him. She was taken aback, but she had fallen in love with the rancher and his way of life, so she said yes. They were married the following year in a small ceremony at the ranch, and everyone who attended, including Trigger, was overjoyed for them. The wedding was a beautiful celebration of the rancher's new beginning. After the ceremony, he and Rose drove around the ranch in his pickup truck. They were both so happy to be starting this new chapter in their lives together. As they drove, the rancher turned to Rose and said, "I can't believe how lucky I am to have you." Rose smiled and said, "Me neither." Now that they were man and wife, the rancher and Rose settled into their new life on the ranch. They worked side by side, taking care of the animals and the land. In the evenings, they would relax by the fire and enjoy each other's company. They were grateful for the simple things in life and never took each other for granted. As the years passed, the rancher and Rose's love only grew stronger. They faced challenges, of course, but they always worked through them together. They learned to rely on each other and communicate openly and honestly. Their bond was unbreakable, and they knew they could face anything as long as they had each other. Their friends and neighbors often stopped by to visit, and the rancher and Rose always welcomed them with open arms. They loved living on the ranch and being part of the community. They knew they were lucky to have found each other, and they cherished every moment they had together. The old man had finally found love again, all thanks to a little help from the newspaper. He and Rose were proof that it's never too late to find happiness. They were a true inspiration to those around them and showed everyone that love knows no bounds. As the sun set over the horizon, the rancher and Rose stood by the porch railing overlooking their land. They watched the cows return to the barn and the horses graze in the pasture. They had worked hard to build their life on the ranch, and now they were enjoying the fruits of their labor. "I never thought I'd find love again," the rancher said, his voice filled with emotion. "But you came into my life, and everything changed." Rose turned to him and smiled. "Me neither," she replied. I always dreamed of living on a ranch, but I never imagined it would be with you." They stood in silence for a moment, taking in the beauty of their surroundings. The air was filled with the scent of pine trees and fresh-cut hay. The sound of crickets chirping filled the air, and the stars twinkled above them. "Thank you for finding me," the rancher said, turning back to Rose. "I love you." Rose's eyes filled with tears. "I love you, too," she whispered. Suddenly, a small furry body ran across the yard. It was Trigger, the old ranch dog. He had been with the rancher through thick and thin and had even greeted Rose when she first arrived at the ranch. The rancher knelt down and scratched Trigger behind the ears. "Good boy," he said with a smile. Trigger barked happily and licked the rancher's hand. He had a special place in the rancher's heart, and he knew that he, Rose, and Trigger were a family. They had found each other, and nothing would ever change that. Years went by, and the rancher and Rose's love only grew stronger with time. They continued to work on the ranch, taking care of the animals and the land. They had found happiness in each other and in their life on the ranch. And they knew that they were truly blessed. One day, the rancher and Rose were sitting on the porch swing when they heard a familiar bark. They turned to see Trigger running toward them, a small puppy in his mouth. The rancher and Rose looked at each other and smiled. They knew that their love story wasn't over yet. There was a new chapter beginning, and they were excited to see what the future brought to them. That's all for the day, and please subscribe for more updates.